Welcome to day 3. Today's topic is superfoods and your brain power. So I'm here today on FOMO No More Live. I would request you all to like and follow this page so that we can all see the re-engineering your health series, which I'm doing for a fortnight, and today is just day 3. So it's an exciting journey going forward. Today is a little bit of a personal discovery for me when I say superfoods, because I'm going to discuss superfoods, your mind, your stress levels, mindfulness activities, getting familiar foods with an exciting twist and new packaging. So that's what today's session is all about. If you can't wrap your head around everything I've just said, in the next half an hour, it's all going to unfold. So as we go along, as you have questions, please send them along and we'll try to take them up as we can. Yesterday we talked about sugar, and I just want to add that my first superfood for today is going to fulfill some of those cravings. Even though I asked you all to do a sugar holiday for 7 days with me, it doesn't mean you can't fulfill your sweet cravings. And we are going to be sharing very soon a really amazing recipe by one of my favorite dessert connoisseurs in Kolkata, and she's graciously done a vegan and a gluten-free recipe for me, for everyone to try out at home. Why do this right now? Purely because we have the time to go within and see what works within our mind, within our body, with our nutrition on a personal level. And not only is this going to enhance your taste buds, it is going to enhance your ability to fulfill your senses, be a little more stress-free, and also have a yummy meal. So we are going to share some cake recipes, and what's going to be in the cake? A secret ingredient that is absolutely going to enhance your brain power. What does it look like? It obviously looks like your brain. Any guesses? You know what this is, right? It's walnut, age-old walnut, very common. In India, we commonly soak it with almonds that we discussed in our first session. Half, one, as many as you like. But let's say we don't want to keep it boring. We don't want to have just the soaked nuts in the morning. What can we do with this? So today, I actually want to take you into a couple of mindful recipes that you can use very easy in your kitchen, and go into a little bit of Italian cooking and a little bit of making chaats. Yeah, so in India we love our spicy chatpata chaats, and we also like to make Italian food at home. So we're going to get into that a little bit, and the dessert that we are going to make, which I'm going to share with you in the comments a little bit later, is a banana loaf cake with dark chocolate and sprinkled walnuts caramelized. So that sounds yummy, doesn't it? Now you really don't have to miss out on the regular refined sugar and all the foods that you loved, which I told you yesterday were toxic for you, because there are alternatives. And this whole next 10 to 12 days, I am going to share a lot of recipes with you which have been developed by deserters, restaurateurs, people who are doing confectionery, a lot of famous people in my area, and they are helping me work out these so that you can try your hand out, because you have the time to make your health and your family's health much more superior than it is right now. So starting with walnuts. What can we do with walnuts? We can make a beautiful pesto at home with walnuts, because pine nuts are not very native to India. And walnuts you find all the time, everywhere, easily in everyone's kitchen. You really don't have to look outside right now. So how do I make a pesto? A lot of you know what pesto is, but simply you get your basil leaves, you add some chopped walnuts to it, you add garlic, you add olive oil. Now let's say you don't want to keep it traditional and don't want to add parmesan to it. What can you do? How can you tweak it? You actually just need to identify any one leaf, a little bit of garlic, a nut like a walnut, and you could even use homemade butter. You could use sesame oil, whatever your taste palette works with. So that's one way of making pesto with walnuts. And what do I do with that pesto? Well, I can have it on my spaghetti. I can have it on my gluten-free penne. I can make a lasagna with a topping on that and sprinkle some cheese. And I can also make my ravioli fillings with this pesto. Now let me take this a little bit further. The walnuts in all of these foods are not only enhancing the flavor, but it's doing that little trick of being yummy and at the same time getting the linolenic and the linoleic acids. Yeah, so those are tongue twisters. It's omega-3 and omega-6. You need those important fats which are usually only coming from almond peels or walnuts in a vegetarian diet. They're usually coming from fish oil, which a lot of us are not consuming. So quick tidbit to remember, try to include these in your foods because usually the taste is not so great just as it is, and if you don't have the habit of having it, then we need some of it in our food on a daily basis. So you can soak it and make the pesto out of it. Now if I want to get more detailed into Italian cooking and I want to be super healthy, I discovered that I couldn't digest any dairy. So when I was 21, I had been having 3 to 4 glasses of milk every day, at least 2 portions of cheese, and I loved paneer. And no one until then had told me that all of my bowel issues, my digestion issues, my face full of acne, my bloating had to do with my lactose intolerance, which got triggered due to excess amounts of dairy in my diet. Of course, I was studying abroad and there it's prevalent. So they said, check this out. And lo and behold, I was lactose intolerant, so I had to get rid of all of this yummy food. And guess what? I used to actually drink cheese soup and have the 4 cheese layer pizza every second day there. And now I'm reduced to a diet where I can't enjoy any of this. So a lot of you vegetarians who love cheese, love paneer, I hear you, because it was a shock to my system. And it's been more than a decade now where I have had to be lactose free. So what did I do about my taste buds? So that's my discovery to you today, that all of these familiar foods, number 1 was walnut. You know what number 2 is going to be? And you're going to be very shocked when I tell you. I made pesto, and this is not green pesto, it's a different colored pesto, and I'll tell you why I chose to do this. Now, I wanted to use something that is again a superfood, that has different variations. I could find leaves, I could find microgreens. It was excellent for protein and the brain, and not only were the leaves and the microgreens useful, but the grain coming from this plant was also exceptional. And it made for a very beautiful pink colored pesto. Any guesses here? What I'm talking about is amaranth. Amaranth leaves, amaranth microgreens, and amaranth grain. Amaranth is a millet. It's a grain that grows in the wild. Now we very easily can make the microgreens, which are highly nutritious, almost 40 times the protein and the fiber available in the natural leaves. And the leaves are widely available. So all of those from West Bengal, Kolkata know it as Lal Cholai Saag. And a lot of you are probably saying yuck in your head. Yeah, because you probably hate eating that, and some of you have never eaten that, and some of you don't even look at it in the market, and they're like, what is she talking about? Why would I eat that? And why would I ruin my Italian food by adding this? Now, the reason I started doing these things is not only because I had to enhance my own health, but I have 2 beautiful children, and like I said, a fussy family who wants to eat the regular food, who is not lactose intolerant, and I want to eat the same food with them, tweak it a little bit here and there, add a little bit of, cheese on top. So what did I do? I started to think, okay, let's make this familiar. Everybody likes tomato. So if it looks like tomato sauce is in there, they're going to have it. Then they want the taste of garlic. They want that little cheesy, creamy taste. And there you go. You have your pasta ready. Nobody needs to know what went in there. So what did I do for familiarity? I used the amaranth leaves. I used the garlic, I put my walnuts in there, I added a little cashew for the sweetness, and I added a little bit of beetroot for the redness. And then when I had to make the tomato based pasta, I added a tomato as well with a spoon of their favorite ready-made tomato sauce. So a spoon of that for that familiar taste, and I boiled their regular pasta in it, added the mushrooms to it. Absolutely no one at home thought, what has she done? Maybe she's added a little bit of bottle gourd. She sneaks in bottle gourd into the food all the time. So that's what they thought had happened. And when I showed them, this is what I'm talking about. These are the leaves, the red amaranth leaves chopped up, which is what I've used for pesto, and we've just made some dinner with it. And as usual, no one could tell that they were having beetroot and red amaranth leaf penne pasta, which looked exactly like an arrabbiata sauce. It had the same sweetness level because I had added some nuts and the beautiful walnuts to it. The garlic was there, the regular oregano was there. So we camouflaged it because there's one thing we don't know about our mind and our visuals. When I say penne arrabbiata and it looks red, your eyes see it and affirm that it's red. Your mind and your ears hear that that's penne arrabbiata. I haven't told you what's in there. Your mouth is going to salivate just the same, whether it's a beetroot or a tomato or an amaranth leaf, and you won't know the difference if it's a little bit here and there, because your taste buds are accustomed. So some of us are very, very particular food connoisseurs, but trust me, like I said, I have a particular family with very, very enhanced taste buds. So tricking them is probably a very, very tough task, and I've managed to do that at least 50% of the time. So this is how I incorporated these amaranth leaves into a pesto. What else could you do with this? My first two superfoods, amaranth leaves and walnuts. I can make a lasagna with this. So don't think that you have to take away everything from your regular diet. You can do a little bit of cheese, you can do rice, you can do milk, you can do a whole lot of stuff so that the familiarity stays and you add new, you package it differently. It looks very similar to what you've been eating because all of us want in our taste buds familiar food, which is comfort, yes, but a little bit of novelty with it. And when you combine both, then you have something that's truly exceptional. Of course, when you tell my family members that you ate that leaf, there's a huge shock happening there, and there's a, oh my god, I can't believe you fed me one of your experiments again. But I did it for selfish reasons, for my own health, added the extra cheese in theirs and a little bit of a dollop of cream, which I didn't do for myself. So yes, we can make our families happy, because a lot of you come to me and say that, okay, I will do superfoods for myself, I'm going to be gluten-free, I'm going to be vegan, what do I do with my family? I tell everyone there's a way to find a middle ground, and there are always condiments and things you can add on top without people noticing what you just did. So coming on to the amaranth grain itself. Why is amaranth such a superfood? Because again, it is working on your brain. It has higher protein levels than any kind of whole wheat grain, and very, very well iron fortified. And it's a very, very Indian grain. So we don't have to look outside to find anything because it's homegrown, it's easily available now, and you will find it in the form of flour, in the form of the grain itself, in the form of puffed amaranth, which you can have as a cereal, or amaranth muesli. Remember I said cornflakes is full of sugar? Now you have an alternative. You have muesli with a whole lot of dried fruits, nuts and amaranth, and it's going to be equally yummy with your little bit of milk, coconut milk, almond milk, whatever you choose to have it with. So amaranth is your number 2 superfood, which is going to fortify your protein. And what else? Now we said vegan diets, new diets which don't include dairy. I am lactose intolerant. What do? I get lots and lots of calcium from my amaranth. So everything from the leaves to the microgreens. How do I use the microgreens? I chop them up, I sprinkle them on my salad. I can even sprinkle them on my lasagna or my pasta. And if I want to make sheets which are gluten-free or which don't have any kind of whole wheat, I can always use mashed potatoes in there, add a little bit of extra butter if I like, and saute my mushrooms, add layers, maybe make a risotto in there and add the same sauce which we just talked about, and trust me, you can't tell the difference. Now I would always tell you that in your family, whoever is experimental, doesn't have food aversions, should do these experiments for you. Because if you are someone who's looking at it and going, oh my god, I can't eat this, you're definitely not going to like it, because your mind and your psychology has seen the leaves and you've seen what's gone in there. But if you see the finished product and you don't know what it is, then you think it's a red pasta or a red lasagna with cheese on top. So this is the power of your mind and your visuals, because they make your salivary glands work or shrink up. So that's how you need to remember that. Pick a family member who is more open and experimental, and you need to get the finished product there. And amaranth flour lends itself to beautiful rotis that you can make. You can make a porridge out of it, and like I said, you can have it as a cereal every morning. So that's what you can do with all these three ranges of amaranth as a superfood. And yes, Italian is the best way to go forward with it. Now, coming to, like we said, familiar foods, again, completely shunned, something that grows right beneath the earth, and we've always thought of beneath the earth as non-edible, full of starch, full of sugar. Sure, potatoes have a lot of sugar, high glycemic index like I mentioned yesterday, so sugar levels, blood sugar levels spike up when you have excessive amounts of potatoes, especially if they are fried, french fries or mashed potatoes. What else can we do instead? So, do you recognize these? I think we've all seen variations of these, and we are all from different cultures watching the video today. So this is a sweet potato. I know it doesn't look like a usual one because there are many variations, different shapes, fleshier ones, thinner ones, longer ones. Actually, they all come under the category of yams. What I mean is anything that grows roots, tubers, yams. Potatoes are not yams, but in India we have things called suran. This is a sweet potato. You have things called arbi, ol, that's very Indian name, and the larger group is called yams. Why do I think yams are superfoods? Yams are superfoods because for all of my clients suffering from any lifestyle diseases, for my family which has an amalgamation of people who have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, there is a patient with cancer, Parkinson's, obesity, arthritis, so you name it, I have them all in my family. And yes, fussy eaters. What do I do? Because everybody in an Indian family wants some form of potato or aloo in the diet day and night. So whenever I have the opportunity, I need to camouflage it. And what better way to do it than find these other fleshy substitutes? So what do I do with these fleshy substitutes? Why do I pick them instead of my potatoes, and why do I say that they are superfoods? Because they actually are regulating acidity levels in the body. They regulate sugar levels in the body. Even though they are full of sugar, they don't spike up your sugar levels like a potato would. Yes, if you had a bag full of sweet potatoes, sure. But if you just had a handful like I showed you, no problem. So what do I do with it? I would simply, with a sweet potato, make a simple chaat like boiling it, putting a little chaat masala, salt, lemon. That's basic, right? You can do that. How do I take it to the next level? Now, if I want to have papris, if I want to have millet-based papri, fried papri, regular flour papri, I can simply cut any of these thin, boil them, put them on my papris, put your regular imli, your bhujia, maybe a little bit of chana and dahi, chaat masala, salt, and have it as your normal Indian chaat. I can do that with a whole range of yams, including what we call arbi, the potato lookalikes in India, and all yams lend themselves to this. You have to boil them, obviously, to make a chaat, and you can make an independent chaat out of it also as a potato and yam bhel, or as just a yam and nut bhel with lots of seeds, peanuts, what we call Indian bhel puri, little bit of bhujia, little bit of coconut. If you don't like coconut, little bit of red chana, and then add all your spices to it. So it can be a lemon chaat, it can be a yogurt dressing chaat, it can be a little bit of mustard chaat. You know, the sky is the limit when it comes to flavoring food and chaats. So the entire gamut of yams is yummy. It's part of our culture. It's unfortunately again one of those side forgotten foods that seem to look shriveled up and ugly in the side, and nobody wants to pick it up. And half of us are like, what is that? Asking the vegetable vendor, what is that? We know our potatoes, we pick up different ranges of potatoes, and you can make chips out of these. You can actually grate them and make wonderful chips out of these. So all of you who want to eat fried, Please make chips out of these. You will save yourself a lot of acidity, burning and spiking blood sugar when you have chips out of these, or baked. And again, finally, a favorite in my house, aloo tikki. So what we do with the aloo tikki, because this is a sweeter version, we add just that 1 teaspoon of potato mashed. Because like I said, get the familiarity, earn the trust, then change what's there in the kitchen. So that 1 teaspoon of potato added with the sweet potatoes and then maybe a little bit of grated vegetables. This is how I sneak health into my own home, into my own kitchen, not being a cook myself, working with my staff and saying that, okay, let's try this today. Maybe it will backfire, but we can add a little bit of, you know, little aloo, little ghee, little bit of masala that everyone's familiar with, and I think we will achieve what we want to. So, put yams in your kitchen on a daily basis. It needs to be in your platter. Yes, there are certain conditions and lifestyle issues where we don't get these, and we shouldn't have too much of these. Those are very specific, but for the 90 to 95% of us, we can absolutely include these flawlessly in our diet on a daily basis. And for all of those who want to have soups in the evening, this is a very good filler to make that soup filling. Sometimes some of us are going on slight diets and we don't want to have a whole lot of food in the evening because we're feeling excessively full or it's not suiting us. Yams go very well boiled, mashed into your vegetable soups. Of course, that's the healthier way to eat it, but chaats is the way to go. And you can even make like a bhel chaat with a little bit of a Chinese twist to it. So a lot of you are probably thinking, your minds are rolling now, how do I implement these? I invite you all to share your recipes, because all of the foods that we've discussed will not only satisfy your taste buds, but they will increase your brain power. They will fulfill what I said yesterday on the taste bud in the front, the pungent and the sweet taste buds, which goes straight to the heart. So the heart is the organ that is being fulfilled, and the mind and the brain is the organ that is being sharpened by these foods. So these are your practical 3 superfoods that I want you all to think about, because they are forgotten foods, but they are there for you to take, and they are not exotic at all. You can find them in the local vegetable vendor and at home. Now, like I said, I'm talking about the brain and increasing the power of the brain. So today I want to go back to a herb. All of you who grew up in the 70s, 80s and 90s, you've probably seen an advertisement on Indian television. For those who haven't watched this advertising on Indian television, it basically had a horse galloping and a beautiful Bollywood actress with long flowing hair, and this was at that time known as Dabur Amla hair oil. Now in this hair oil, if you all remember, there was something also called Brahmi Amla hair oil. Brahmi and Amla are 2 superfoods in India that we have used time and again for hair. Now how does it impact your hair? What is it going to do in your oil? Nobody's ever thought about this. Nobody's ever thought about this. The Brahmi, of course all Ayurvedacharyas know, Brahmi is a root. You use it, you grate it, you create a powder. What does the powder look like? Something like this. It's a herb, it's a root. When we have roots, we combine it with anything that's fatty, a ghee or an oil. So just a quick look, this is what a Brahmi ghee looks like. Why am I showing you this? Because this actually has a ripple effect. Right now, a lot of us don't have a whole lot to do. So we are not able to sleep, we are watching Netflix. A lot of us are stressed out about when is work going to begin. A lot of us are stressed out that we have to see our family day in, day out, all day. We don't get any respite from our kids, husbands and families. Yeah, so there's a whole lot going in your brain, and there's some insomnia and sleeplessness happening there. Now, this is a solution, one-stop shop to all of that. Increasing your brain power, making you sleep better, automatically making your stress levels half. And guess what happens with that? You have beautiful hair suddenly. So that's where the Brahmi Amla hair oil advertisement came from. That's how Brahmi works. So you can apply it, you can eat it, you can consume it at night with milk, you can consume it at night with ghee. It's a root, so it has to be consumed with a fatty lipid and oil, ghee or any kind of milk. So that's why I showed you the Brahmi ghee, because you can't just eat the powder with water. It is not water soluble, it is oil soluble or lipid soluble. And this is absolutely a fantastic superfood for your mind because your stress levels decrease, your mindfulness levels increase. So I had 4 superfoods for you today: your walnuts, your amaranth leaves, your amaranth grain along with that, and the microgreens. Then we moved on to yams, and now Brahmi, the herb, the root herb that we can all take 2 grams with a little bit of fat, any kind of fat like a ghee. You can get the ready-made Brahmi ghee, you can have it with a little bit of milk, any combination just before sleeping. Now, where do you get all these things from? Regular vegetable vendors. Of course, you will have to look online or in Ayurvedic store if you want to get special nuts and if you want to get any kind of roots like these. So you will be able to order them. Wait patiently 2 days, 5 days, but you will be able to order them because they are all available, and it's a very common root herb that's out there. This is not to say that other herbs are not beneficial. I chose these today particularly with the time in mind, the circumstances that we are in, and to raise our awareness to our stress and mindfulness practices so that we go inward when we are thinking about nutrition and food. And in this endeavor to go inward when we're talking about food, we also need to talk about one superfood we need to give our brain through the power of our thought and our mindfulness practices. So today, when the world is a family, in Hindi, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, when the world is a family today fighting an invisible enemy, I want you to do one practice to fight that invisible enemy inside you. And you know what that is? It is that one person, when you close your eyes, you absolutely cannot forgive. And I know when I say this, you're already like, there's no way. There's no way. So pick an easy person today. Not the one person you absolutely cannot forgive, but the person who did something trivial to really irritate you. And pick that person today, close your eyes, join your hands, and in your mind, just say, I forgive you. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you will be transformed, if not 10% to 95%. Just do this one mindfulness simple exercise, because more than physical nutrition, when we give our mind this kind of nutrition, we automatically transform ourselves to the next level. And then when we look at our food, we're already there. Our mind is not clouding ourselves with, I don't like this, I don't like that, because I've shifted from the space I was in. And when I am more forgiving, when I am more wholesome, I automatically become stress-free and more mindful. So I'm glad we have begun this journey of mindfulness and mindful eating together to re-engineer all of your health practices. Tomorrow I am going to be speaking on gluten-free diets and millets. Millets is the call of the hour. It is something that is easily available in India, and we just have forgotten about it very conveniently. Today I mentioned one to you. Tomorrow we are going to go into a very simple way to incorporate this without thinking, oh my god, what am I going to eat gluten-free? Yeah, so that's our topic for tomorrow. Make sure you follow FOMO No More and check into this page, watch the live series, and check back in tomorrow. Thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I enjoyed sharing my personal family stories. Thank you so much. Good night to all of you.